Hello and welcome back to the Summoner's Guide to Final Fantasy XIV, and today we are going to get into the Heavensward Endgame. Now, the folks at Square Enix learned their lesson from the Endgame from the 2.0 series, and instead of having a couple of 8-player dungeons with lengthy cutscenes, they went to a more standard 4-player dungeon format for the final dungeon, this one, the Aetherochemical Research Facility, and then immediately followed up this 4-player dungeon with an 8-player trial. This dungeon is fairly straightforward. Interestingly enough, it's the only 4-player dungeon I can think of where there are not any loot drops. Now, they compensate for that by giving you a rather hefty amount of tomestones for completing it. 150, not counting the bonus 100 that we're getting for me being a new player. Now, these walls are going to prevent you from advancing, which is going to limit the size of the poles, at least in this first section here. But you'll want to use all of your AoE tactics. Ooh, our other DPS disconnected. That'll be interesting. Fortunately, this really isn't that hard of a dungeon. Death Flare! Let's do that again. Because we don't have our other... Okay, good, he's back. Now we just gotta wait for him to catch up. There we go. Let's get rid of that last enemy there. Alright, so this room is much like the last one. A couple walls are going to come up. Wait for the tank to establish position. Wait a few more seconds for my... There we go. And I'll Bane, and I'll Flare, and I'll go ahead and throw out all of my lovely AoE tactics. And Death Flare. Now, there is an item level sink on this dungeon, simply because it's endgame, and it's not necessarily expected that the players at this point are going to have that, are necessarily going to have that great a gear. Now, it's very possible you might. If you saved up a lot of tomestones from when you first reached level 50, those same tomestones will buy you the level 60 gear. So you could go in with much better gear than the item level 180 it sinks you at. In fact, I'm at about I-200 at this point. And will only be increasing as I get more tomes. This is going to be the last pull for this first section of the dungeon. Once the boss, or once the tank establishes hate, I usually like to go after the Medicus first, because the Medicus is, in fact, a healer. The Vanguard, of course, is the most powerful enemy. Alright, I've got a few seconds left on my ether flow charge. This is good. 3, 2...
I will crush you underfoot!
Alright, so the first boss is an Imperial General. Well, Borealis, probably, whatever their rank is. Regula Van Hydrus.
Savages.
Try to stay at a good mid-range to him, because
There's nowhere to run.
there's going to be some dodging you're going to have to do, especially later in the fight.
Can you withstand this? Enough!
Alright, thrown out turrets. It's usually up to each group individually as to whether or not to worry about the turrets. The turrets will do their attacks, but then after a while they'll self-destruct for a nice big ol' room-wide AoE. So it can be nice to take them out, but some groups just prefer to heal through the turret attacks. But since it looks like we are taking them out, turret's going to self-destruct, so let's not focus too much attention on it. As you can see, it hurts pretty bad, so that is a reason to take him out. And occasionally he'll do that, so this is kind of where you want to stay in the middle. But once you get him down, he won't actually die, he'll just withdraw. That's really all you have to worry about. You may or may not kill the turrets, depending on what your group wants to do. Just kind of follow their lead. It's not absolutely necessary if the healer is keeping everybody up. Stay in the middle to dodge all those line AoEs that are coming in, and especially that one that targets about 3/4 of the arena. Other than that, fairly simple boss. Alright, so this next section is very conducive to large pulls. So we're going to see if that's what our tank ends up doing. Sure looks like it. Or not. Okay. Alright. I'm just going to... I was expecting a bigger pull, otherwise I would have contributed a little more to that pull there. That's okay. A lot of times the tanks will pull everything into this room here with this node that you see. The bioculture node. The moment you start attacking this thing, it's going to release the bioweapons. The tank should try to pick up everything and pull it to the center, if at all possible, so that the DPS can continue working on the bio node, while at the same time taking care of the ads. When you take the node down a little more ads are going to come out. We're just hoping that the tank picks everything up. That was a waste of a perfectly good tri-disaster. So once the node and all of the ads are gone, passage opens to the next room. And guess what? It's going to be the exact same thing as this room. So you got your other bioculture node. As soon as it gets attacked, that electric attack comes out, and more bioweapons. So again, we're kind of hoping the tank decides to pull everything in with the culture node. challenge to take care of everything in here, because there's just so many ads to worry about. But, like in the last room, once the node and all the enemies are down, the passage will open to the next chamber, which is the second boss. Now, this second boss is particularly interesting if you had ever played the Binding Coil of Bahamut, which I have not with this character, but of course with my main. This is actually going to replicate the tactics of a few of the boss fights from Coil. So first it'll change into the Cobra form. I don't recall it doing that much with that. Okay, when it changes to Naga, it will use Petrifaction, turn away, or else you'll get turned to stone. Never a good thing. Then it'll enter the Machina, or Machina mode. And it's going to mark one player with a bind. A second player should get into the ring with me. Otherwise, it's going to do that. And then that. And I'm probably going to die. Yes. So, when somebody gets marked with that bind, a second person needs to get into the ring. Otherwise, the person who's found is gonna hurt badly, as you just saw. But you only need 2 people in the ring, counting the person who was bound. If the third person goes into the ring, it actually screws up the mechanic. So 2 and only 2 people in that ring. And that will split the damage to the point where the person is actually going to be able to survive, unlike me in that particular instance, because people their party may have forgotten the mechanic on that, to be honest. This one doesn't come up very often in the roulette, and not a lot of people necessarily play the level 50-60 roulette anymore. So they may just have forgot that particular mechanic. But if you're playing this dungeon, don't forget that particular mechanic. Whoever does get bound will thank you for it. So obviously, when you get to this part of the elevator, when the enemies show up, kill them. That really shouldn't be rocket science. Once all the enemies are dead, the elevator will resume its movement. Alright, so we're getting close to the end now, obviously. We're in our 3rd section here. Yeah, back in the day when people were grinding tomestones for their relic weapons in the Heavensward era, this dungeon got played quite a bit because of its high amount of tomestones you could get. Alright, so you got a Conjurer and a Thaumaturge here. So a healer and a caster, as it were. They can be they can both be dangerous, but one of them, I believe the Thaumaturge, but I could be wrong. One of them actually can petrify you, which is rather nasty if that occurs, so... That said, I'm not entirely sure if there's any way to predict or even do anything about it. The placement's not what I want it to be, but... These pulls can be difficult, speaking as one who has tanked this dungeon before. for. Alright. Elevator. Get onto the elevator and hope your party is patient enough to let you get onto the elevator before they activate it. Heads up, I may need to skip the introduction cutscene to the end boss, because I'm not sure these guys are very patient. Alright, we got a conqueror and 2 thaumaturgs this time. Alright, once the enemies start going down, some more of those cultured Shabtees will come out. I'm going to hold off on my Reborn trance, because I know for a fact when I'm done with this one, 2 more are coming out. I want to save my Reborn trance for those. I also know for a fact this is the last pull before the end boss. Alright, now it's almost time for the boss. Get to the elevator, and when we get down to the bottom of the elevator, it'll just be a short walk to the center of the facility. Alright, let's just get over here. I'll let it run unless I see the message.
The champion of Hydaelyn.
Tell me, why do you despise the primals so? They are the embodiment of mortal will, of mortal desire. Plainly, you desire a foe to despise. And 'tis well that you do, for it is from the vortex of ceaseless conflict that Lord Zodiac shall be reborn.
Through the joining, the world shall become whole again. Then all shall be as once it was, as it should ever
Darkness shall consume light.
Okay, fine. They don't want me watching the cutscene. Alright, so in this fight, you have to take care of these 2 Ascians first. And it's basically just dodge a bunch of mechanics and take each one down to 50%.
Your light shall burn no more.
Now these spheres, watch where they appear and go elsewhere. The ice spheres will come up first, then the fire spheres.
Damn this frail flesh.
And it'll always be an alternating pattern. Wherever was safe on your first attempt is going to be dangerous on your second. Alright, when you get it down to 50%, she's going to switch off.
Mortal scum!
Any moment now. Ouch, she stuck around for a while. Alright, then comes La Brea, the second phase. And the other one's now going to be providing support attacks. This phase is a slightly harder than the last one, and we'll see the reason in just a moment. Here it is. Yeah, the ice kind of makes it difficult to dodge things. I lost my opportunity to use the Death Flare, too. But I am going to refresh my ether flow before we get him down to 50. And they're not going to let me watch this, so I'm going to skip it. They merge into one, basically. See, this is precisely why they made the cutscenes unskippable in the 2.x endgame. Because there are a lot of players that just want to get through the content and don't necessarily care if people want to watch the cutscenes. Alright, so when the fire and ice spears appear, those need to die, like right the heck now. And killing both of them is nice, but you absolutely have to kill one of them to make sure that they don't come into contact with each other. Alright, when this is done, there will be a number of these dark spheres which appear across the arena. When the boss starts casting universal manipulation, you wait till it gets done about halfway through the cast, then get into one of these dark spheres. Otherwise, you're going to get hit by a metric crud ton of status effects, which are really going to ruin your day. And again, make sure you don't get in there too late, otherwise you won't get bound in time to avoid the status effects. So I usually wait till about 2/3, 3/4 of the cast time. Definitely no later than 3/4. Alright, it goes back to the center. Now it's going to do the same pattern again. And of course, things that you need to dodge, Alright, both spheres are gone, annihilation goes off. Oh, that was inconvenient. I got too close to the sphere, and so I got bound in it too early. You don't want that to happen, because it makes you pretty much useless for the duration. See, in that case, the healer got into it too late, and it didn't bind in time. And I'll just eat that. So from now on, it's not going to use the sphere attacks or the universal manipulation attack anymore. It's going to bind everybody with these tethers that'll just go toward the character they're tethered to and do a lot of damage. Yay! So that's the Aetherochemical Research Facility. Has some interesting mechanics in it that you gotta watch out for, but overall, not a very difficult dungeon. And gets you a lot of tomestones. But again, as you could see, if you really wanted to watch that story in the end of the dungeon, you gotta get into a group that you just know is gonna let you do it, because they're lengthy cutscenes, and most parties aren't patient enough to let new players watch cutscenes. Now, of course, I've seen them before on my main. So, you know, obviously I know what's going on, but if you're a new player, you might just want to make a friendly request that they wait to pull the boss before you actually get to experience the story for yourself. But anyway, I don't want to spoil too much of the story, so I'm going to cut it off here, and when we come back, we will play the next trial, the Singularity Reactor.